One of the things they teach in law school and med school is that once you get out and get into practice, is that you cannot get all involved in your clients' or your patients' problems. You cannot take it personally and, according to them, fulfill your professional obligations. I want to tell you, though, if they're out there pushing you around or making you sick, you don't. I never did go for that, so you don't have to put up with that shit. You call me, I'll take it personally. Series 93-100, items 75 through 94, which will put an end to that particular series. Thank you. Plain talk and point-blank thought mean nothing till you've been through the otherwise. What then, you could ask yourself, is the intellectual life of man? A debate, a dance, an endless tug of war? While the fear of physical suffering can be worse than suffering itself, the dread of stupidity is in a different league altogether. If you don't think about being alive, you're not civilized. And if you think about it too much, you're too civilized. What's a poor creature to do? In the neural streets of the city, no one much cares to hear any explanation that doesn't make someone mad. A man who lives only on hormones is a beast. One who lives solely on neurons is a wimp. And one who lives on a little of both is civilized and forever mildly uncomfortable. It's simple. You can't think while looking back. A man finally said to himself, "Do you have the least idea how little thinking has to do with how you feel and how you live?" One of the passengers, as he sat, feeling the cravings of his empty stomach and observing the state of his aroused sex, thought, "If I could ever get my neurons to get as excited as my hormones, I'll bet you I could move to a better seat on this damn bus." All routine knowledge begs the question. Since to survive is to struggle and compete, and to think is to do so additionally, what then is the intellectual competition of a real thinker? The civilized neural life of man is not all that different from his feral hormonal one, and the denial of this, in part, is what keeps man civilized and mentally distracted. I think it's culinary news. A thinker's mind is his own feast to go. Once man can speak and think, after that everything they do is an exercise to keep from plain talking and point blank thoughting. One man's song, "If we are what we eat, then I eat me." One of man's favorite pastimes is listening to himself talk. A thinker, himself think. Beyond that, who's to guess? On a celebratory birthday deathbed, the man who had been the king's priest, philosopher, counselor, and closest confidant said to him, "I told you it wouldn't work." A kid in a pilot's brain sang, "What's to hate, what's to fear? It's all in the past, it's behind me now." If you personally aren't actively involved in the attempt at intellectual life extension, you're merely dying. Terry failed trying. There was once a thinker who looked around at where he was and said, Why did they send me here, so far from home? Series 93, 111. Items 1 through, yes, 43. An explorer discovered a most unusual mountain, but it was covered with a slippery veneer that made a lengthy stay near impossible. And more difficult yet was trying to describe the place to others. How physical reality and words work together or more. The report stated that the victim had been stabbed almost 3 times. Why let your reality fall prey to such an attack? Is 2. Science is to art as thinking is to consciousness. Art is to science as thinking is to consciousness. Cooking is to sewing as thinking is to consciousness. And driving a cab is to thinking as being dead is to consciousness. And no more need be said on the matter at this time. Well, okay, maybe one more thing could be said. One of the truly distinguishing facets of man is in his ability, after hearing about something and discovering that he cannot do it, to immediately begin offering to instruct others in its exercise. A man eating a drop-stitched cobbler paused in mid-bite and pondered, why do so many of the observations possible to be made concerning man end up sounding so critical? He then burnt his tongue, cursed and threw down the pie, and stormed off looking for Captain Irony or cynicism, the boy wonder. Just being alive makes some people wish they were dead. Yet another unannotated example of why such things as psychology and neurosurgery remain more popular than plain talk and point-blank thought. In the private, personal marketplace of the individual thinker, big business is not necessarily good business. Once men had concluded that they'd never be as good as they thought they should be, they said, hey, let's come up with myths, heroes, and the idea of God. Those who don't understand man condemn man. Life wants most men to be civilized and to take life seriously. Life wants, okay, it allows a few to take it even more seriously, then finally, not serious at all. Life told me I could say this. Okay, life made me say this. Oh, all right, I just said it when life wasn't looking. Remember, shoppers, no one speaks for life but life. And we is its lips and tongues, yuck-a-rama. Attention. Attention. A man named Harold Cheapskate is looking for people to invest in his ideas. You'll have no difficulty finding him. He has the same phone number as you. He looked from the mirror into his own thinking and said, best check the calendar. I believe I'm late for my shots. And from the vet exam comes this question. Where does the mind go when it calms down? Getting into a thoroughly uncomfortable position to get the deed done, a dog mused. Are thoughts but a metaphor for fleas? And now, one from the Think About It exam. Everyone's mind can count to 2, some to 1 or even 3. But where's the one that can count to none? Honey, While you're up, would you bring me back a glass of milk and tell me if there's a difference between life and local reality? Headline: not only do the crime statistics continue to climb, but also the public's concern and outrage. When life talks, everyone listens. They just don't know who they're listening to. One man says he doesn't much understand things, but rather has a take on them. But he says not to worry, that it's gotten him along in life just fine. I'll do the Giesens laws. I'll repeat. Those who consider themselves important never have any idea what the mind is all about, much less consciousness. Real travelers must keep on traveling on. What's once understood must be soon abandoned. See, you don't feel so important now. A man's mind sang, I'm irritated when hungry, pissed when full. The correct title of this tune may be, We Are What Eats Us. The supreme in a dieter's dream would be, of course, a food that was totally satisfying, but with no calories or nourishment whatsoever. But wait! Man's already accomplished this in their intellectual ingestions. Except for entertainment, why should anyone listen to what anyone else has to say? If we move from its moons directly to the planet Jupiter, we can then reasonably ask, why do dogs sniff one another? Why hands are automatically drawn to pastry cabinets, counters, and why cats always include an RSVP in their communiques with the robins. Some men hide behind fear, others behind bravado, others cover themselves in reputations and successes. While a thinker starts out pulling allegory behind him in an attempt to erase his tracks, then ultimately struggles to strip himself bare and be privately nude and rude in the woods alone. Regarding the need for feel in your new thinking deal, there is no passion in plagiarism. Another man says that people with dumb names should stay home. Also those with stupid ideas. A distinctive sign of the depth to which one is civilized is how readily one treats individual aspects of civilization as though they had a discrete, objective existence of their own. Cats always get nervous if they hear birds singing a tune that they're not familiar with. In a thinker's world, fowl of a feather should stick together, if there's a reason for it, and no one notices. Ordinary people have only ordinary feelings about ordinary things. At least that's what they say. A certain man stopped and thought, with increasing clarity do I suspect the thrust of my special hunger and the efforts I make. It is to become plain, calm, and point blank, even amidst the noisy, confused, and unfocused condition of normal mental life. The fundamental laws of reality have little to do with the local physical laws of the universe, but just enough to dazzle and bamboozle the old minor Rooney. The idea of armchair travel came about when men discovered it was easier to get an armchair than it was to travel. The mind can be a wonderful pet as long as you keep it inside or else make it stay out of doors. If there is one thing wrong with man, nobody knows what it is. You are fully civilized when you want to start playing, "Hey, look at me," for what appears to be non-sexual reasons. No editorializing. University of the Air, Lesson 3 in the course, look over here, 102. One unique aspect of becoming a new being in consciousness is that you cannot prove to anyone that you have accomplished it or provide any evidence that it is profitable. What more can you ask for your tuition dollar? The ordinary like to note that there are no infidels awaiting execution. But look over here, dear. There are no myths in an empty stomach. Feed a cold, starve a fever, strip my mind, I'm a believer. How the singular, non-physical side of mortals expand. What can you say about man once you've said everything that can be said? Something else. After many, yes, and I do mean many, starts, stops, starts, hesitations, successes, failures, triumphs, then setbacks, one man summed it all up in a rhyme. Conscious clarity's life's act of charity. And after having thought this for himself, he felt no better for it, nor any worse either. For such is not the purpose of thinking for yourself. And yet, on another planet was a certain man who each day set his watch to buzz at 3 o'clock to remind him when it was 3 o'clock. Ring. You can either think for yourself or you can't. But without such a background, an expansion of consciousness is foolish to discuss. A bonus question from next year's Drywallers and Appallers exam. A two-dimensional mind in a three-dimensional world will never reach its full potential. The simple are disturbed by indigestion, the more complex by irony and uncertainty. Opossums and birch trees laugh in the face of the scientific method. Theories were the first form of space travel. Minds, the original space. Notice, everyone's in show business. Everyone's an impersonationist. How you need to look at even this, point blank. The question is not whether the gamble will ever pay off or not, but rather whether you'll ever even find the right place to lay down your bet. Sweetums, as long as you're in the kitchen, would you go ahead and tell me, is that supposed to be good news or bad? The human inclination is to tell people about the neat vacation spot you travel to. But the too human danger is that you'll try to show them snapshots of the place which are not in your possession. Regarding a thinker's aesthetics, it is only the new that is the joy forever. A man thought, if I could locate the center of the storm, perhaps I could stabilize it. Perhaps. Testing. Crib notes for the 3, 5, and 6-eyed. You do realize that everyone may have it backwards, and it may be that myths invented men. How travel smarts operate in the not quite possible yet level. A man who already has it in him can direct himself. In fact, only he can. When all becomes metaphor, even the grandest of plans run awry. All philosophy is bullshit, and all bullshit, somebody's philosophy. You didn't expect that to be the final one, did you? How about the terms plain talk and point blank thought? How about stretch your conception of what man has been up to anywhere above the survival level, just the life of the body. Yet again, another description of how you could look at the general push, the general overall dynamics of what men intellectually are attempting to do beyond their claims. And one of them could be described, one for the night, an ad hoc description could be, it's the attempt to in some way be point blank in your thinking and your talking. It's most often referred to by those with jobs and suits and decent haircuts and wives and kiddies and husbands. It's usually described as, got to be good just tell the truth. This comes out all the way from ordinary people, from rebellious younger people saying that, to older people who sometimes even come closer at a mechanical level, since they're about to die and they don't particularly give a rat's ass. But in between is religion, is art. Because what is it? Throughout history you've had poets, painters, would-be mystics, and if they tried to give a reasonable, verbal telling of what they were up to, and assuming that they were reasonably intellectual and verbal themselves, they will come up with something resembling, if you let them wander and babble long enough, they'll come up with something like, well, I'm trying to express my soul. That's most, easiest one to say, because artists, for you people who don't know it, each generation they write down a piece of paper and they pass it to the next generation. So that, they don't have to think about it. Just every kid that grows up and can paint it all, the first thing when the teacher says, why didn't you do your math homework instead of all them dumb drawings and paintings you do at home? The kid, somebody already gave it to him and says, I'm trying to express myself. Well, it's not just painters, if you don't know. Those who go into the naval business, captains, they all pass along that piece of paper that, you open it up and it says, starboard is right, port left. Or attorneys. From every generation you pass one along, you open it up and it says, charge twice what you were planning to. That kind of. That's important. It's kind of important esoteric information in all professions. At any rate, all artists will someday say, well, I'm trying to express myself. And if you try to talk to them any closer, it will turn out that they're not just trying to vaguely express themselves. What they're trying to do is express in some way their rancor, their criticism of life. And they say, and if you say, well, why are you so upset? They'll say, well, you just won't look around. The Philistines, the ordinary, those with suits and ties, live in some kind of dream. Why else would they get up and not be an artist? Why would they go out and live in a decent house and pay a mortgage instead of living like us in squalor? Why would they have morality instead of living like sexual libertines and lizards like we do? They're just frightened. They're ashamed. They won't admit it. They won't tell the truth. And it's my job as a guitar player, as a painter, as a composer, as an author, it is my job to tell the truth to people. All right. Surely you know all that. It's not either right or wrong. They're doing the best they can. But that is one explanation, a reason, to what the human intellect is about. All right, from that down to ordinary people. You do know it's common. You may have done it. At least you've been in the presence of hearing someone say it. And if not that, you've heard somebody say it in a movie. That somebody will say, damn, like their boss gives them a hard time, or their wife, or their wife's attorney. They're having trouble. That the character will turn away, or the person go, Jesus, sometimes I just like to in life just tell the truth. I just like to turn around to people. And so I'm in a I've had a hard day and I go in to buy a quart of milk or something, I get through and somebody says, hope you had a nice day. I like telling the truth. But you know where it's going. To them, the truth at that moment, you say, well, what do you mean? I'd like to turn to them and say, you pretentious son of a bitch, don't tell me have a nice day. You don't ever see me. You don't care anything about my life. You don't know that I'm about to be ruined to my business. You don't know my physical problems. You stand there smiling at me. You don't even look at me. You didn't even glance up. You're making change and just say, have a nice day. Calm down, sir. That is one of the, I know I perhaps exaggerate a little bit. Not much. A little bit. Well, for you wimps in the audience, and maybe I exaggerate a little bit. Between a very aggressive, hostile painting, between there and just an ordinary guy in the street, that falls somewhere about what people think would be tell the truth. Talk point blank. You surely, of course, realize that besides the hobby of art, which there's nothing wrong with, and besides an ordinary man getting all upset and saying, boy, I'd like to just turn around to my wife or my kids or my boss and say, why don't you stuff it? I'd rather die than come back here and work again. I'm not going to smile and lie to you and say, hi, boss, glad to see you. I'm not glad to see you. I hadn't liked you from... You do know. Well, of course, you can look at that as a hobby. Go from there to being homeless and jobless. Maybe that's your hobby. But you have... to hear anything, to think at all, you know that is not what is actually driving people. That is along the lines that they wish that they could talk more directly or tell the truth. But I would like for you to go a little past the idea of tell the truth, because that is so hackneyed, for one thing, is a cliche, and it means nothing, because normally, as I said, what people are saying, ordinary people, when they say they won't tell the truth, what they would like to do is that grand old dance, the VTS, to vent the spleen. To tell the truth, all they want to do is turn to somebody and say, screw you. That's tell the truth. That's not. What is it standing between man? Sure, that's enough examples. You guys are surely remember enough from your college reading and everything else. Movies, people are constantly doing it. And many times, whether it's intended or not, it's not the point. But all the great classical works in philosophy and fiction, whatever's a popular movie or a novel today, somewhere in there is something about, I wish I could tell the truth. I wish I could just say what was, and then they get muddied again, of course. I wish I could say what's on my mind, or I wish I could say what's in my heart. Which is one reason that some of those books I was pointing out to you Wednesday night, if you recall, that seemed to fascinate people, and a character would just turn around and just tell what seems to be, they would call it maybe the truth, but what they're really saying is they're shocked to hear it. I would have never done that, whether it's aggressive or not. So throughout, back to what I was saying about me pulling out the examples, throughout all of the classical literature, it's in religion. They blame it then back on God, or they attribute it to God. I don't mean blame, but they attribute like, well, only God can tell the truth. And if somebody gets close to saying the truth, that is, they become, in that particular religion, they become, after the fact, a prophet, a seer, some great pillar of their particular religion. Why? Because they told the truth. You mean they went around to people and they just came out the audience and said, you bunch of damn cheapskates, most of you are not worth even us talking to. No nonsense. But if they did, said the apologist, if they did, it would have been what? Well, it would have been God telling them to do it. I mean, they just didn't come up with it themselves, which is always nice. It's always nice to be able to plagiarize, to always attribute it to somebody, because then you can at least, if you don't tell the truth, and I know you can say you're telling the truth because you're quoting from God right here from the Bible or the Quran. If not that, at least you can splint your vein and go, wait a minute, but don't take it personally from me. I'm only interpreting what the God's told me to do. What is really afoot? What is it? And that's enough confusing examples. You have got to be able to feel that throughout your life, whether it's a pressing matter at any particular time, that you have had a kind of feeling, or now that I bring it up, you have surely somewhere in your consciousness, to be interested in such as this, is a thing like, yeah, not just whatever I could do to me, but sometimes I feel like there would be of particular benefit if I could just tell the truth, whatever the hell that is. If I could just point blank say something. What if I could do it all the time? And if we could extract just the mechanical hostility, that is, of somebody says, have a nice day, and you go, screw you. Not that. But if it was just on the basis that when you did have to talk, that you could just say yes or no. is about what it amounts to. Or nothing, which is really better if you know how to do it. Because most of life requires no comment. Except amongst ordinary people. And they keep expecting you either to meow or chirp. Which anybody can fake it. That's why everybody's an impersonationist. Just most people don't know it. But what is it that you have the feeling? Have I said it up enough? If I pressed on and went, hey, that's the whole point of something like this, is it get to the point that you're not driven crazy. You don't feel like, well, I am, to use ordinary terms. I am held by all sorts of subconscious traumas, by all sorts of unconscious inhibitions, and some conscious inhibitions, some I'm aware of. All sorts of foolish restraints, all sorts of shackles from Philistinian morality. Boy, I'm sick of it. I wish I could just be free when somebody said something I didn't agree with, or when somebody asked me a question like, how do you like my new hair? And I'd say, you look like you stuck your toe in a fan. I wish I could just tell people the truth. I wish, and one more time, we know that's not it. You've got to know it's not just to be a smart ass. But that is a reflection of something. And that's what we're trying to get at. Well, would you hurry? All right. Jesus. Get him. Who died made him Socrates. If you present it to people in a certain way, if I said that I had a pill or I had a short course, if I had something that a pill, that always makes it easy. If I had a pill that I would sell you, and what the pill would do would make it possible, without you getting hurt, it would extract the hostility and the meaningless criticism that everyone has toward their fellow man, the kind of useless, uncivilized aggression that we all suffer to some degree. And the guy go, yeah, my potential buyer. And I'd say, none of that, what this pill will do, beyond all that, this pill will make it possible without harming other people. And that's part of the built-in beauty of my pill. It will stop you from saying anything insulting, upsetting to other people on the basis of you being able to just be point blank and, quote, tell the truth. And they go, okay. But you don't even have to worry. You don't have to censor yourself. Once you take the pill, you'll be able to relieve yourself of this feeling, this burden, this lifelong feeling of being boxed in some way, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Take your choice. I go, okay. But this is built in. It will keep you from doing anything socially untoward, anything hurtful to other people. It may make you keep from even commenting. But at times when it will not hurt anyone else, and it's that feeling that you've had all your life that you just wish sometimes you could just tell the truth. And they go, yeah, this will do it. My suggestion is, I could move a few of those. I could move a few. People would buy that. Why? What is it that people feel? Now, you do understand this is sort of a variation of saying that collectively, man himself is an open-ended piece of creation on this planet, that everything else is a finished product. Man is not. And therefore, man is well within his rights, thank you, to be somewhat agitated, upset. He cannot peacefully sleep away 80% of his life like our good canine brethren. That there's always seemed to be something, and not physically any longer, not with us civilized folk, but it's something internally. They feel like, I can't get to the bottom of it. And you seek drugs, meditation, religion in the past. It's this, life is just kind of jumpy. I feel anxious. I feel itchy. You're alive. You're human. So what I'm describing now is taking it into really a closer into your face, figuratively and otherwise, area of it that it's verbal. That people would not just settle for the fact, those who even think that they're driven by some great mystical hunger. If I said, well, I can satisfy the hunger with this pill. Now they might take it right quick, but if I said, now wait, I already took one myself, so I got to tell you the full truth. Now what this is going to do, this will satisfy you, but it's not going to add, the satisfaction will not turn into any sort of verbalizable knowledge. In other words, it will satisfy you, but you'll never have anything to say about it. You can't say anything. I mean, if somebody comes up to you and goes, I believe you found it since I saw you last. I believe you found it. And if you try to go, well, they say, well, tell me quick, what did I do? You won't know. You won't know anything. That would not satisfy. And not just, I just started out with the example of would-be mystics to try and get an extreme example to make it stand out. But with ordinary people, it would not do. With people who are not out on what they would assume to be a mystical quest, just people that want to satisfy themselves. The people that, whatever they describe, if they wish that they were a better person, they wish that they were more stable, they wish whatever. And if you said, all right, this pill will do it, but it will render no benefit. It will add nothing to your ability to speak about this. And when I say speak, even to yourself, they'd go, oh, Jesus, you know. Well, is there somebody you're in business with maybe that has a variation of this pill? You know, that sounds real close. You know, they'd be reaching for their billfold like, God, that's close, but that's not quite it. Don't you have, will there be a new model come out next year? Perhaps if I wait. The point being, well, it's more than just a mere synonym of trying to scratch this itch. What I'm describing now is that feeling that is inherent in any reasonably sane, civilized person, that they cannot express themselves as they want to. Now, I did throw in that some people would want me to say not just mentally, they would want to say emotionally. They would want to say even spiritually, but let's keep it fairly reasonable and say that we could be, that people could, for me to put the words in their mouth, that people would say, all right, I would buy the pill. I would like to be able to say, you know, as long as I wouldn't offend people, and as long as I could beforehand tell that I'm not just doing this out of some kind of personal animosity, that I'm actually doing it on some higher basis. You know, something trying to seek a grander goal, the truth. Okay. Then some people would say, all right, what I want to do is be able to express what I think. But many people, in fact, probably a majority, if they even thought about it in this way or given the choice, they go, well, what I want to do is be able to express what I feel. Because that's still, we have many more drywallers and appallers than we do thinkers and neural juice drinkers. So they would be inclined to say, what I would like to do is be able to express how I feel. It is all the same. I'm just getting it now to the level that both of these groups, although it might seem to be two different camps, that somebody says, well, I'd like to be able to express what I think. Somebody says, no, what I want to do to express what I feel, that's what's important. That's how I feel really trapped. That is what is strangling my passionate growth in life, my evolution, my development, my unfolding as me, the person. As I can't, you know, it's how I feel. Same thing, because we're down now. That's why I said it was kind of in your face tonight, figuratively and otherwise, if you get it now. No matter where they think that their captivity, no matter where they feel as though their inhibited passions or feelings, whether it's down here or up here, what we're doing now is getting to a point, I want them out. I want to be able to in some way express it. I want to be able to say what I think, say what I feel. All right, forget the last part. Forget whether it's think or feel. Now we're down to the say. That's what they would both eventually do. That's why they wouldn't buy the pill if I said, it will calm you down. It will answer all you'll no longer have any questions about life, but you won't know any more about it than you did. Well, all right, I won't even say that. You won't be able to speak of it. Many people will be tempted, especially those that really believe that they should be on a mystical quest. They go, "Ooh, God, now you're serious. You know what I'm talking about." And by then, they'd have a damn good suspicion that I did. And I go, "Oh yeah, I could describe it just enough to really tease them, make the Thompson Agency jealous as hell. I could advertise it just momentarily, just within minutes." And they go, "Oh, but you're literally telling me that it won't add anything. I won't be able to talk about it at all." God, they'd be tempted. They go, "Ooh." I said, "Not at all." They said, "Well, maybe I'll wait. Maybe I heard about another guy over in Detroit or Bombay, or let me try this one other guy. Will you still be here when I get back? Maybe I'll come back, but I mean, that one part's missing." Yeah, I know. It's seriously missing. Back to, by now I surely have set it up enough to satisfy the most anachronistic of you joke lovers, the setup is now set up. Everyone would agree that in some way there is a meaningful part of their life involved, or a meaningful part of their concern about life is involved with the fact, once they were presented to it in this manner, that they can't say what's on their mind. They can't say, they can't express what they feel. That they just know that there would be something even beyond a mere cathartic benefit in the ordinary sense, but something almost mystically liberating if they could just tell the truth, if they could just say at any given moment without hurting anybody what they think, what they feel. All right? Have we got that? All of you, whether you thought about in those words, all of you, that is part of being alive, and that is part of what seems to be the human dilemma. Now the question. Since everyone from pre-Confucian times to the Greeks, to people right now, to artists, painters, philosophers, people who write novels, they think they're involved, attempting to gain entry into the same area wherein they might get closer to being able to tell the truth, which fiction, would almost seem to be it, wouldn't it? As opposed to, well, if you're religious, you got to really tell the truth according to whatever the gods make you do. But fiction is, you're on your own. Science fiction even. Boy, I can really tell the truth. Except go find people who write fiction, and most of them, well, like the rest of us, rest of you, speaking generically, are drunks and upset and neurotic because they can't make it up. You can say, well, wait a minute. And they say, well, there's things I can't write about. My mother's still alive. And if I really wrote this in a book, I'd die. We'll use an assumed name. Yeah, I could do that. Well, I don't know. Wouldn't you think that fiction, under an assumed name, aren't we getting close to being able to philosophically tell the truth, express what's in you, and let it go with that? Who'll know? And they can't do it. Why? Why? Why is it that people believe that there is something specifically frustrating this desire for some kind of inner release? Remember, we're not talking about behavior. We're not talking about unfettered, feral, uncivilized behavior of going out and raping and robbing and pillaging and all that good stuff. We're talking about some kind of internal, some kind of mental or spiritual or emotional liberation. To be able to say, what's in me? Why don't you? Are we getting to the question? Is he alert? Is the man on the ball? Yes, I would say that that's where I was getting to. That's the question. Why? Well, we spent 45 minutes getting here, and I tend to say why. That's not like an even. That's about the right balance. Or maybe I could play a couple of songs and get us down to 2 or 3 minutes. That'd be a better balance. But think about it. Man has had now 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 years of being literate enough to go outside the cave to pee and to draw things on the little symbols on the wall. And ever since he started drawing the symbols, if you can read them, all the way up until artists and painters and everybody of the day, they're saying, that's what art's supposed to be. They attempt to express. And yet all painters, like us, same as fiction writers, same as priests and rabbis and everyone else, you say, well, have you painted the painting? Have you sculpted the sculpt? And I'll go, no, I feel like sometimes I'm getting closer and I feel like I drift away. Now I get closer and I drift away. Do you believe that anybody ever has? Probably not. Well, what is it standing your way? Which is a dirty question, only an ordinary person would ask it. And they would start. We are to the question. Don't lose it. We are to the question. And if you ask reasonable people, artists, let's say, well, what is it you think that's standing between you? You've got canvas. You got a grant. You got your rent paid. You got all the you got the paint here. You got some free time. You got rent paid. And there it is. And our good tax dollars, the grant or whoever it is even guaranteed you a show coming up. I mean, you're broke. If you didn't have this, you'd be in the gutter anyway, right? So what do you got to lose? Well, yeah. So whatever it is in you, paint the damn thing. I mean, you can't be any worse off than you are. If you paint it and people look at it and go, my God, he had the audacity to paint the truth. Burn those paintings. Denounce him. Don't ever let him, show in a reasonable gallery again. What have you got to lose? Which, like I said, that's a dirty question, because anybody knew anything wouldn't do it. But I'm asking you. And there are plenty of people that's been in that situation. Why? What is stopping you from doing it? Which is the question I'm asking you. What is it stopping you from telling the truth? If you like that one, that's A. B, expressing what's on your mind. Or C, expressing how you feel. Or D, all of the above. So, what is it? What is it that man feels is the absolutely unsurmountable impediment to just go, Arr! And I might add that even if any of you, I was making some allowances that some people may have never put it in these words, but every time also that you have ever taken drugs, taken a sip of alcohol, anytime that you have tried to rearrange your internal chemistry here through apparently external means rather than producing it yourself, you're doing what? You're trying to let it out. That's why those drugs from apparent external sources are so attractive and have never lost their allure throughout history. But I thought maybe some of you might see that as an easier physical example than religion or meditation or worry. Why is it that you cannot speak the truth, think point blank, talk beyond metaphor, just come out and just address life, say what's in you, say what it is that's driving you, what is bugging you? Well, I've been hesitating to say that, but you understand now, we're not talking about criticism. We're not saying that. It's not like that crude childish. And I mean childish level of saying, to tell the truth is tell people get screwed. No, that wouldn't satisfy you. You can go try that. You can get drunk enough to go tell your boss or somebody get screwed. I won't ask for a show of hands of how many people's actually done that, but all of you know that did not give the relief sought. So what is it? Why is it that men cannot let it out, say what's in them, tell the truth? Let's be point blank. Just us. Let's do some plain talk and point blank thought. They have come up with every other possible solution. Well, I say every other possible one. There's always another one. As long as civilization comes up in these tomorrow, and we all warm our little cockles of our brains, there's always another. The point is, none of them have ever satisfied anyone. Would that give a reasonable man, dog, child, chicken somewhere to go, wait a minute, you are correct, you're correct, my nervous system knows you're correct, that we've had thousands and thousands of years and no one has come up with anything reasonably approaching an answer to the question about, well, why can't we express ourselves? Why can't we tell the truth? Why can't we let out what is in us? Why? Now everybody has looked. They have looked out and they have thought about it and they have. I'm doing this for a purpose, not just to show off my mail order theatrics. They look and they think, wait a minute. Where's my paper and pen? I'll do some more writing. I'll theorize about it some more. There is and I suggest, since I sort of made up the term, plain talk and point blank thought, there is, right here in the midst of this question, what should be the Miss America of that question. Why can't people express what's in them, people reveal who they actually are, or tell the truth? Any of those. Why? Why is there such a difficulty? And why do they keep looking and talking and bringing down the gods and bringing down ideas of curses in the past? Try the plain talk, point blank thought. If I had somebody from another planet and I had them right here and gave them all this and they'd look, I suggest to you, if they had no prejudice, they had not been colored by life on this planet, they would immediately go, well, there's an obvious thing. Which is one reason you don't see more extraterrestrials here, because they're inclined to do that, and somebody just kicks the piss out of them and they throw them in a swamp down in Louisiana. You have a bunch of guys named Billy Bob and Bubba Picasso run the guy off the road. He's not going to be long for this world. But I'm just stalling around now, see, to get right to the end of the tape. Just imagine the question: why is it that serious people, the artists, the thinkers of the world, down to ordinary sane people, will all agree that there is something? God, it drives me. It's what makes most people go to church. It's what makes people drink. Like I said, it makes people. They'll look for it sometimes in sex, food. They look for it in life. I don't mean there's any sort of subconscious psychological problem. The problem being, if they would listen, they would accept my term, is that there's something in me, and it's like I can't get it out. And they'll leave their wife. They'll leave their husband. They'll change jobs. Oh, you know it all. But those that apparently are even in charge of it, the philosophers, the artists, the thinkers, the public commentators, they speak the words. They go, there's something in us. And they always localize it. There's something in us Jews. There's something in us Italians. There's something in us Russians circa 1990, circa 1780. There's something in us as a people, which is not important, but I'm saying now that even makes it worse. You understand? That's even more distraction, because you look off and go, there's something strange about us Italians. Right, yeah, right. And the Italians say, I don't know, the Greeks come closer to, I don't know, expressing themselves, and the Greeks go, boy, those Albanians, they get closer. You understand? It's always a matter of, look over here. Is that what I was looking for? No, but it's a new place to look where it's not. And everybody goes, well, I'll be damned. Even those in charge of being the public commentator for this problem, the priests and everybody, that there is something in man, and you're right, that everyone has this feeling that they can't express it. They can't let themselves out. They can't tell the truth. They can't reveal their heart of hearts. They can't reveal and expose their true nature to life. What is it? And if I had my little person here from my other planet, and he heard all this, he'd be prone to make the kid in the Emperor's New Clothes, bypass it, bring it into the 21st century, because my little person, I suggest, would be very inclined to go, has nobody considered the... Of course, I'd try to stop him before, somebody killed him. Going, you don't say that. Because he was about to go, well, there would seem to me to be an obvious... Has anybody ever... Shut up. Since I'm the one talking all the time about metaphors and allegories, I'm also the one who wrote. When all becomes metaphor, even the grandest of plans run awry. If you talk, if you try to think, I don't care if you're trying to think about how to get rich, which is no importance, or successful, which is no importance, but trying to think about how to do something extraordinary inside of yourself, it all becomes metaphor. Because if you talk, it's already a metaphor. It's already a map. And it doesn't matter how grand the map is. It doesn't matter how intriguing the map is. It doesn't matter how interesting the map is. When all becomes metaphor, even the grandest of plans, which if you start out trying to do this thing, then that was the grandest of plans. Everybody has the grandest of plans at one point. When you were a kid, remember. Everybody knew at one time that they just knew there was some kind of place to go that was more fun than playing all day and eating ice cream forever. They just knew it. But it all becomes metaphor. The part that's not said in here, when it all becomes metaphor is also saying if it all stays metaphor. Because I guarantee you it's all metaphor. It was metaphor before you met me. I just made it worse. I would say that worse is open to some interpretation. Well, for once I agree with him. When it all becomes metaphor, it's gone too far. When it all becomes metaphor, you have stayed in the same place too long. Because the answer is point blank. Well, why is it? Why can't I paint the painting? Why can't I write the poem or the novel? Why can't I just with my fellow man, with lovers, family, just life? What is it holding me back? Why can't I reveal myself? No, kid, shut up. No, they'll never let you back to that planet. Don't you say that. He was about to say, well, have you considered that... I must apologize. I brought him here, but no, next time he won't be here.